Welcome to Discovery Watch with John Kaiser.
I'm your host, Jim Goddard. John, welcome back to the show.
Jim, it's a pleasure to be on your show.
John, Highway 50 has started drilling at its Golden Brew project in Nevada. Should we be watching for a discovery?
Well, if you believe that 3 times is a charm, we should certainly be watching this drill program. Golden Brew is located about 20 kilometers south of the former Quito open pit mine at the southern end of the sort of 300, 400 kilometer range of northern Nevada, which hosts Carlin-type gold deposits. Now, the Quito deposit is in the range front, which is the outcropping rocks, but the Golden Brew project sits in the under gravel, and the Least brothers, who are the principals of Highway 50, they acquired that project way back in late 2010, and they initiated a drill program in 2011. And that drill program confirmed that there are lower plate rocks on the other side of the so-called jasperoid showing that is decalcified, oxidized, all the right stuff for evidence that this was a lower plate system that has been pumped by hydrothermal fluids carrying Carlin pathfinders. Now, what drew them to this area was a number of reasons. The jasperoid outcrop itself, it's modestly, has some modest gold values. It was found by John Zimmerman back in the late 80s. It was optioned to Meridian, which is now part of Yamana. They drilled 8 holes or so underneath it and didn't really find anything. This jasperoid sits in a window of lower plate rocks, which normally is something to get excited about, except these lower plate rocks are massive. They have not been altered. So the jasperoid, which is usually a late phase from a big hydrothermal system, it's sort of an end member. It itself isn't really what you expect, but drilling underneath it, they didn't really find anything. But when you step west, you get into the basin, it drops off sharply, it's 500 meters deep, and there we do have a lower plate window. Now, they did not get any ore grade intersections in 2011, and they ended up heading north to the Porter Canyon project, which is actually opposite of the Quito project, which currently is under option to Bravado Gold, but they have had a devil of a time getting a permit from the Forest Service to do any work there. The Forest Service is still pretty difficult in terms of getting any permission to do exploration work. Porter Canyon itself did not really yield anything, but in 2014 they were able to attract Regulus Resources to do a 50% farm-in by spending $5 million US over 5 years. But when they went to get a permit application, the Forest Service said, this is in the vicinity of a lek, which is a sort of special area where sage grouse do their mating dances. And so they were hung up for several years trying to get everything in order so that they could drill. And they finally got a permit in late 2017, and they drilled some holes late 2017 and reported them in early 2018. This is now the 3rd attempt, and the focus this time around is they're moving a bit farther west into what they see as a gravity high under the gravel, which they know is a horsted lower plate hunk of rock. So they believe that it'll not be quite as deep, maybe only 300-400 meters deep to get to the surface. And they are hoping that as they move west, they will be able to intersect gold grade. They are doing 4 holes. One of them, the farthest west one, is into an embayment, as the geophysicist interprets it. This would be actually a gravity low, suggesting maybe it's deeper, but it could also be a place where fluids came through and rotted out the rock so that it is less dense, and that's also a place where you would expect gold mineralization to pile up. But they are doing RC drilling, reverse circulation, which generates chips. It belongs more in the category of poke and hope, where you are drilling for grade, not for structure. This is very different than what's going on at South Grass Valley, where Nevada Exploration Inc. has been using oriented core to drill very expensive holes through gravel cover that's less than 200 meters thick, so that they can try and understand the stratigraphy. Both plays are very similar in that they are clearly lower plate windows that have been hydrothermally pumped. Neither of them yet has an ore grade interval, and both those projects are really, really important. If the Highway 50 and Regulus are able to score a ore grade gold mineralization of the Carlin type at the Golden Brew, this would be a very big deal, because this is at the southwestern limit of the area that John Montigne's theory of the Farallon subduction slab says that, over a 45 million to 25 million year period, the slab rolled back, unleashing magmatism, which pushed these ponded brines that had built up beneath the crust and become pregnant with gold and all the other Carlin pathfinders, and then pushed them up through cracks. And then the trick is to find the right assemblage of upper plate and lower plate rocks that can also serve as traps for these fluids. And of course, Carlin is the mother of all Nevada gold systems, and then Cortez Hills Gold Rush Pipeline, they are also, coming along fast behind it. And then Twin Creeks is also up in the northern part. But at the southern limit, there's only the 175,000 ounce Quito project, and a bit farther south, the 2 million ounce low grade Northumberland deposit. So the concern is that, even if Montigne's theory is correct, by the time the subduction slab rolled down there really weren't any of these pregnant brines left to bring gold into the system. So confirming that this would be a big confirming of the major discovery at this end would be a very big deal, especially if also Nevada Exploration Inc. at South Grass Valley finds ore grade mineralization in that location, because it's in the middle of a nowhere land. There are no known gold deposits anywhere near there. The system is completely blind. The lower plate rocks that outcrop are similar to the ones that are near the Golden Brew in the range front. So they're massive. They have not been pumped by fluids. And so if we were to get a double whammy of a discovery at South Grass Valley and at Golden Brew, it would blow Nevada wide open, because it would say this entire area from Long Canyon at the northeastern end all the way down to Quito Golden Brew can host big gold systems, and even in the middle where there's no reason to believe anything is there, and the deep-seated structures that are believed to be important, they haven't been painted onto the map, because there isn't any gold deposits there that would get people to look hard and imagine these structures and say, oh yes, this has got to be here. The question that would open up is, if there's gold there, and there's lots of gold down in that Quito area, where else in northern Nevada could there also be deposits that are there simply because nothing happened to stick out of the ground and was found by the earlier wave of prospectors? So I'm watching this one very closely. It has the ability to kick off a modern-day gold rush in Nevada. And yes, we should be watching this closely. They've started drilling. It's a $500,000 program, 4 holes. We should know in a couple of months what the outcome is.
We'll have more with John Kaiser right after this.
I'm Douglas Mason, CEO of Naturally Splendid, symbol NSP on the TSX Venture Exchange. Naturally Splendid is a biotechnology and consumer products company focused on the global cannabis and health markets. Naturally Splendid is expanding distribution in this rapidly growing market with products currently in Canada, the USA, South Korea, Germany, and Australia. To view our comprehensive company presentation and for more information, please visit our website at naturallysplendid.com.
Aven Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia, Saskatchewan, and the Yukon. Trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the pink symbol ABN-AF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Aven's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avenresources.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with John Kaiser. John, in early March, Neo Bay reported that the Moose Cree First Nation filed for a judicial review of the drill permit Ontario granted for the James Bay niobium project, but several weeks later the majority of the council resigned, forcing a general election for the positions of chief and council. What is this all about?
Well, the Moose Cree First Nation is based in Moosamee, which is on the coast of Hudson Bay, James Bay. And since 2016, the chief has been Patricia Ferries, who has been very much opposed to any sort of mine development or exploration in the traditional area of the Moose Cree First Nation. And the one that's caused the biggest trouble has been the Detour Gold Corp plan to do the west pit expansion, about 1.8 million ounces. They would like to develop 2 new pits. They filed an environmental statement in early 2017, but the Moose Cree First Nation filed a protest saying that the process for this whole approval, it was not valid. They want it to be reviewed. So the whole plan of Detour to be open pit mining by 2018 has been now postponed into 2021 or so while they work their way through this. And in late 2016, after Nio Bay had acquired the James Bay project, which had sat for 30, 40 years in obscurity, the Moose Cree First Nation also protested about having any exploration in their backyard. And so the Ontario government took its time going through the process, and on January 30th this year, they finally granted a permit, and they, made sure they crossed all their T's, dotted all their I's, followed the protocol for all this, and finally gave Nio Bay the right to start drilling this deposit as part of the whole feasibility demonstration cycle that it would like to kick off. However, the chief filed for, or at least somebody on her behalf, filed for a judicial review of the process. And in essence, this is saying that the existing permitting process of Ontario has no validity, that it's garbage. So this is a fairly high-stakes thing. The application has not yet been granted for this judicial review. If that should happen, it goes into a bureaucratic limbo land. But a very interesting thing happened on March 20th. 9 members of the 12 member council suddenly resigned. Half of them were supportive of getting something done on the James Bay niobium project. Half of them did not like the way that the chief was running the system, just by fiat, saying we're not going to encourage any sort of development that might bring these sorts of jobs into our region. We want to keep this a traditional region for fishing and trapping and hunting and that sort of stuff. And so it turned into a showdown. When that happened, the whole council had to be dissolved. It was due for re-election in June 2020. So prematurely, the whole council and the chief's position were collapsed. And so April 12th, this Friday, is the deadline for nominations. It'll be interesting to see who is going to allow themselves to be nominated and then compete in the election, which is scheduled for July 2nd. And there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on it because this is really a referendum about the future of First Nations in this part of Ontario. Do they just sit there and, do the traditional stuff and not get involved in any sort of economic activity such as mining, which is about pretty much all that you can do up in that area? So this will be very important. It will be important for the Detour Lake the west expansion project. It'll be even more important for Nio Bay because it's floating around 19-20 cents as if they will never ever get the social license. It could turn out that the makeup of the council and the chief is again Patricia Ferries, and that everything will carry on. Nothing will get done, and it'll be the same old. On the other hand, this could be a significant turnover, and the community will be asked to become engaged in weighing the cost and benefit of bringing in exploration and doing a serious assessment of whether the way exploration and development will be done is actually damaging to environment, or whether the opposition to it is just out of principle because they simply do not want any mining activity in the general area. So it is a big deal. I don't think anybody's ever resigned en masse from a council like that as part of a power play. So it's something to pay close attention to over the next couple of months. Of course, that means it's too late for Niobe to be able to do a summer drill program, because even after the election, they will still have to go through the process of negotiating a social license, getting the Moose Cree First Nation on board with the plans to advance this niobium deposit. But the niobium deposit, it's a different thing from a gold deposit. The world doesn't need any more gold. However, something like niobium, the world can use because it is a hardener for steel, and steel is going to be part of the future for a very long time. So, a very big deal. Keep an eye on it, and we'll see what happens after July 2nd.
We'll have more with John Kaiser right after this.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications, patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Cyprus Development Corp's flagship lithium project is located just east of Albemarle's Silver Peak mine in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. A 12-hole exploration drill program for lithium-enriched claystone on Cyprus's 100% controlled properties is now underway. Cyprus Development Corp trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol CYP, the Pink's CYDVF, and on Frankfurt's C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cyprusdevelopmentcorp.com.
We're chatting with John Kaiser. John, do you have any new juniors we should be watching for a discovery this year?
A junior that I introduced to the KRO readership a couple of weeks ago is called Soulstice Gold Corp. It's a fairly new company. It was spun out by Dunedin Ventures, Inc. to hold the gold rights to the Kahuna project, which is located between Rankin Inlet and Chesterfield in Nunavut, just to the northeast of the Meliadine mine that Agnico Eagle has developed and which produces about 400,000 ounces a year and will produce 5.7 million ounces over the next 14 years. Agnico acquired this project for $600 million worth of stock in 2010 when it bought out Comaplex at a price of $10.24. And the hope is that Soulstice Gold will find something very similar to what Agnico Eagle has developed. And what this area is it's a greenstone belt which has a couple of major faults. One is the Pike Fault, which is named after Murray Pike, the founder of Comaplex, and the other is the Raptor Fault, and the Raptor Fault is the one that projects onto the Soulstice Gold Kahuna project. And these faults themselves are not interesting. They are very similar to like the Destor Porcupine Fault, deep-seated faults which in themselves do not hold gold, but they are the general pathway that gold-bearing fluids come up, and they end up being diverted through splays that come off of these main faults. And there's lots of little splays there. And in this particular area, the sponge that soaks up the gold are the folded iron formation that's been put on its side, and wherever it's been sheared and cut by these faults, you will find medium to high grade gold mineralization. And finding this is tricky because these are plunging bodies. This will not be like a single sheet of a vein filling some crack. The Meliadine project consists of multiple such plunging lenses. And what Soulstice Gold has done is its property cuts through cuts through the Raptor Fault where it takes a bend. And what's interesting is that the magnetics are actually a magnetic low in this particular area. And the hypothesis is that this is an area where there was particularly lots of fluid flow, which destroyed the magnetite, resulting in the magnetic low. And the magnetite's, of course, associated with the iron formation. And last year, when they went public, they had raised $8.4 million through a combination of 25-cent unit and 35-cent flow-through stock. They've spent about half of that since then. They've got about $3.8 million working capital left. They did a lot of sampling last year. The only drilling that's been done was a long time ago when Kaminak, which was a spin-out from Sheer Diamonds, which had originally explored this area, drilled a few holes on some targets but didn't really hit anything, and it's not clear that they actually managed to position the drill at the right angle to hit the target. And so what they're going to be looking for here are EM anomalies, conductivity. Arsenopyrite is closely associated with the gold mineralization in this system, and work will resume in late June, early July. It'll begin with additional sampling to establish targets for drill targets, with drilling likely to begin in late August. And the hope here is that one of these targets will yield a high-grade intersection. They've got float and in a few places in situ gold mineralization, so they know there is gold all over the place. But the trick will be to find a zone. And once you have one zone, you can start drilling it off. Right now the stock is in sort of a bottom fish level. It's trading 13-15 cents. The key insiders, David Adamson, the CEO, and Marty Tunney, the president, they've actually been buying stock in the open market at these levels. And so this is a really interesting play. It's got some formidable backers as shareholders. There's Rob Cudney's Northfield that's in there with a big position. Rob McEwen has a position. And a former GMP investment banker called Kevin Reed is actually the largest shareholder with 16%. So at the moment, there's nothing to beat the drums about. It's a classic bottom fish accumulation. They will probably want to raise more money later in the season, but I suspect that as summer rolls around, and especially if we get some help from the gold price, there will be a lot more eyeballs on this play, and all they need is one intersection to kick it off, because once you start figuring out where this stuff is, well, then you just systematically start knocking off all these other targets. So Soulstice Gold Corp, put that on the radar for Discovery Watch this summer.
John, thank you so much for the update.
You're welcome, Jim.
We've been speaking with John Kaiser, his website, kaiserresearch.com. I'm Jim Goddard.
Comments made on Discovery Watch are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any manner whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Archived online at HowStreet.com. Discovery Watch is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.